Welcome to this broadcast section, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the live stream. Breaking news is that Turkey have decided to put a muscle on Israel. Turkey have decided to state a claim that Israel, needs to be pushed back, that Israel needs to be taught a lesson, that Israel needs to be held accountable for whatever it's doing in the region. But what exactly? Because I see a lot of people saying, oh, well, this is because of Gaza. Oh, well, this is because of the atrocities in Gaza. This is because of the activities of the settlers in the West Bank, backed up by the Israeli Defense Force, expelling Palestinians from their home and so on and so forth. It has absolutely nothing to do with it. And again, what I've found out in the Middle East in particular is that most of these countries, the Arab Gulf countries, the countries around the Levant, anytime they want to do something which give them political clout and political oxygen or makes them, to appeal to their base, they say we are doing it for Palestine. All of them will say exactly the same thing. We are doing this on behalf of Palestine. So the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, was on the Patrick Bet David's broadcast. Okay, he was on the broadcast, and they asked him the question specifically. Um, I think PBD asked him a question about the Armenian genocide, asked him the question about the Greek genocide, and about the Assyrian genocide. Because if you look at the history, Turkey have carried out, expulsion. They've targeted the Armenians over the years, and most of the countries still today refuse to recognize the Armenian genocide because of maybe Turkey's presence in NATO, the influence that Turkey have in the region, and in particular with Israel, the energy deals they have with Turkey, the aluminium and steel and whatever is Turkey is exporting to Israel, the food that they are exporting to Israel, tourism. Israelis are going to Ankara, they are going to Istanbul and doing all this rhinoplasty, they're doing surgeries, butt surgery. It's very inexpensive to do most of those procedures in Turkey. So a lot of them go there for holiday. They go to Antalya, they go to Bodrum, they go to wonderful, amazing places in Turkey and have fun. So people talk about the United Arab Emirates having normalization with Israel. Turkey have a long-standing history of normalization with Israel. Talk about the support for Zionism and support for Israel in the region. Turkey is at the forefront of that, and nobody's willing to say that. Well, Turkey have taken some action as well because, again, in the game of politics, it's not a straight line. It's all about interest, and this interest as well can overlap each other. So Turkey also have another interest, which is to prevent the establishment of a Kurdish state. And Israel is backing up the Kurds as well to use them as a buffer or to use them to clip the wings of Turkey. And we can discuss that extensively. So it's a matter of geopolitics and about interest. So while Israel is saying something else, and Turkey is saying something else, their actions does not really translate on the ground to the realities. And this is what I want us to look at today. So the breaking news is that Turkey have decided to suspend some sort of economic ties to Israel. They have decided to carry out substantive um, decisions, basically, to try to clip the wings of Israel as they claim. Now let's look at some of the highlights. Here's the latest on Turkey, Israel's part, and related global development. Now, Turkey bars Israeli ships and closes airspace as of August 29, 2025. The ports and trade action. So, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan announced that Turkey has completely cut off trade with Israel, banned Israeli ships from its ports, and prohibited Turkish flag vessels from docking at Israeli ports. Why is it coming now? Why? Why is this happening right now? You want to know why? It has nothing to do with the ceasefire. It has absolutely nothing to do with Palestine. They don't give a shit about Palestine. None of them in the region care. Even though they claim to be your cousins, they don't really give a shit. It's all about their interests. Nobody's willing to make the sacrifice. The only ones that are willing to make a sacrifice is those that have nothing to lose. Iran is under sanctions, so they have nothing to lose. And this is what I think Karl Marx said: "Arise, all you workers of all nations, because you have nothing to lose but your change." So basically, what is there for Iran to lose? Iran is not afraid of losing anything. It's not afraid of losing the trillion or tens of billions of dollars or hundreds of billions of dollars in oil deals and arms contract and so on and so forth. Turkey is afraid of losing. Saudi Arabia is afraid of losing. Egypt will go hungry without handouts from the United States. So all of them are afraid of losing. They are very comfortable in their position, and the leaders want to continue to have this handout. So because of that, and because of that only, they have refused to take a stance in relations to long-term political issues. The people in the region are very emotional. They lack strategic thinking, and this is why the Israelis are coming on top every single time. Because I see sometimes they even work against each other, collaborate with the enemies in order for them to have advantage over each other for short-term gains. They are doing it for short-term gains, meaning economic prosperity for them and their family members. I mean, look at is it Berakta, the company that is producing arms and drones is linked to the Turkish President Erdogan. I think it's his brother or it's his in-law that is the owner of the company. His cousins are also, so it's about, you know, interest, political interest of these different individuals. So the president of Turkey himself have a lot of interest in economic dealings with Israel. What about the oil supplies, the oil tankers that are supplying to Israel after they have been after the supplies coming from I think Azerbaijan? It is owned by people within his inner circle and his family. So all of this is happening. Even the steel export. People talk about the Israeli Merkava tanks. They talk about the Israeli Tafon, Israeli military hardware. They depend on raw materials, e.g., steel. Steel is coming from Turkey. The high-grade steel that Israel is using to make these Merkava tanks are coming from Turkey. So Turkey, I would say in the region, Turkey is probably Israel's biggest trading partner in terms of tourism and the host of other issues. I mean, Jordan to some extent, but Jordan has nothing. How many people are in Jordan? 10, 15 million. It's a country depending on handouts. The economy is largely, dependent on handouts from abroad. How many people are going to Jordan for tourism? People go to Amman, they go to the desert to live. But how many of them are going there? It's not like Saudi Arabia and Turkey. All these countries are parading themselves as some sort of, tourist destination. They want to, parade themselves as accommodating and hospitable. So they are doing everything possible to make sure that there is political stability. And I understand. This is exactly what it is. They are claiming, oh, you see, we are very stable, and because of this political stability we have, we want each and every one of you to come and see what is going on, and so on and so forth. And Turkey has been playing this debilitating role in the region. And nobody in the region, I mean, when the time you talk about it, there was a time I put up a picture of Mohammed bin Salman, and I compared him to Netanyahu, and somebody said that was wrong, that you can't compare it, somebody that take away, that liquidate children, that unalive children with a Muslim. That's what the guy told me. So to him, Mohammed bin Salman is the real Muslim, is the real guy. Because just because he's a Muslim, he gets a pass, and Netanyahu is a criminal. Let's not get it wrong. Israel is committing atrocities in the region, but they are doing that with the aid and support of the countries in the region. In fact, if you really want to liberate Palestine, this is my opinion after 2 years. If they really want to liberate Palestine, what people should do immediately is to start going after Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Jordan, and Egypt, and Syria, and all those countries that are colluding with Israel. Because these are the countries that are putting Israel on this pedestal and discussing with them at night and saying something in the morning. Oh, finally they realized that they were doing deals with Israel. I thought somebody told me 3 months ago that they've cut off all political ties. I was having a conversation with an individual 3 months ago, and they told me that Turkey already cut off and severe economic ties, that the only thing remaining now is the oil coming from Azerbaijan. Now we're talking about there was a flotilla that was supposed to try to break the blockade on the Israeli blockade on Gaza. Turkey will not allow them to use any of their ports. Turkey refused to allow them. For what? They didn't allow them. And these guys had to go all the way to Malta. And Malta wants to look good, but for political reasons, they also informed the Israelis, some people are coming here to use our port. We don't want to look bad in front of the world, but we are telling you now so you know. And before that vessel took off, Israel went there and carried out a drone strike on the vessel and damaged it. So this is the reality. Each and every one of them claiming on one hand that Israel is the problem, which I agree. But you're also part of the problem because you are colluding with Israel. Saudi Arabia is as much of a danger in the region as Israel. Why should I be afraid of telling you that? Because you're too soft and emotional and you want me to please you? On one hand, you're telling me, oh, this, yes, that is the fact. And I want the wings. But a host of other things we are seeing in the region. So if you really want to do something in the region, countries like Turkey are aiding and abetting Israel. This is the fact. This is the hard fact. And anytime you see that and it's not a crash out where we can target the Tokolosh and target the ugly duckling, everybody don't want to hear it. Most of the people in the region, they don't want to hear it. It is not pleasing to the ear. It does not give them enough because they have friends and people that are connected to them, and some of them go to the Gulf. So they don't want to be seen as criticizing the Gulf countries. They don't want to be seen as criticizing Turkey. Of course, you want to go to holiday in Bosron. Why would you condemn Turkey? And like I said, I said this from the beginning. The only thing that I need as a friend is the truth. The only thing I need as a friend is the truth. So, which is a welcome development by Turkey, by the way, don't get me wrong, that they have realized that these economic ties with Israel can no longer continue. Congratulations. Finally, after 2 years, you found out. Finally, after 2 years, you found out that these economic ties with Israel and this continuous economic support for Israel is not helping you. The UAE gets a lot of flack from people like myself that the IDF soldiers are going there for, during the weekend and they're having fun in Abu Dhabi and so on and so forth. But Turkey have long normalized ties with Israel. Long, long time ago, these so-called IDF soldiers you're talking about also go to Turkey. They get implants, they get, butt implants. Some of them go there to do their lip filling, face uplift, they go there. Some of them go there for surgeries of all sorts. So this has been going on for a long time. So I'm not surprised that this is happening. This is happening and I'm not surprised. So all these lies you tell yourself, all everybody jump up on the same panel. They want to be on the same page. You cannot be seen as somebody that is causing division and so on and so forth. Most of it emotional. All of them are using the Palestinians for their own political benefit. And Turkey is doing exactly the same thing. So is Saudi Arabia. They are trying to sell themselves to the West and saying, look, we are dependable. We are willing to sell out the Palestinians. We're willing to throw them under the bus, to sacrifice 2 million of them so that we can be liked by you, so that big companies can do business with us, so that we can celebrate with you. And anytime you say this, people get angry. All of a sudden, you are causing division. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how this is playing out, how this is panning out. And I'm looking at a thread of events. 3 months ago, they said they cut off ties. 1 year ago, they said they suspended economic ties. And these economic ties they are claiming to have suspended does not end. It means that they are actually saying something and not doing it. I can remember close to a year and a half ago, Turkey said they suspended economic ties with Israel. Were they telling the truth then? Were they lying then? Are they telling the truth now or are they lying now? They said this months ago that they're cutting off ties. Were they telling the truth then? And are they telling the truth now? Now, let's look at the rationale and reactions. These moves were made during an extraordinary parliamentary session with Turkey accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza. Fidan also highlighted that planes carrying humanitarian aid could operate if Jordan grants flight permission. Current status: some Israeli airlines responded no disruption to commercial flights at the time, suggesting ambiguity and whether the restrictions are fully enforced or still being formalized. So basically, the current status, the Israeli um, airlines are still flying because they say they don't understand what is going on. There's no real formalization. And you will eventually notice that they will continue flying. It's better you don't take this kind of political decisions. I don't even know what the response from Turkey will be. I don't know whether or not they'll continue to fly. I don't care about it. Again, it's about this inconsistency in terms of policies. It's about the inconsistency in terms of the positions. And this is what I don't understand. And they also claim in response to hospital strike on the 25th of August. Now, Turkey condemned Israeli airstrikes on Gaza Nasser Hospital, calling it an attack on press freedom and another war crime. At least 20 people, including 5 journalists, one from Reuters, were reportedly killed. The Israeli military launched an investigation but maintained it does not intentionally target journalists. I think they said over 260 or 300 now. Is the highest ever. You know, Korean War, the Vietnam War, the including the one attack on Laos and the fighting in Laos and Cambodia, the war in the Balkans, including Kosovo, Serbia, the Republic Srpska, including the famous siege of Sarajevo and the massacre in Srebrenica. Add all of them together, the Iraq War, the war in Afghanistan. If you add all of them together, this war in Gaza have taken away more journalists than all of them put together in the last 60 years. Yeah, but it has the support of the West. And the countries in the region continue to trade with Israel, continue to normalize with Israel. And the Saudis are saying, we don't care about the Palestinians. We are well off. F them. That's what they're saying. You're not even allowed to say, long live Palestine in Mecca and in Medina. And anywhere in Saudi Arabia, you are not allowed to do so. But there's no law saying you cannot say long live the idea, for instance, God forbid. Somebody said that, but there's no law preventing you saying that in Medina or Mecca or Riyadh or Jeddah. You can say whatever you want. You can praise the IDF soldier. By the way, people talk about, Saudi Arabia and this and that. There are still Israelis getting special visas and going to Saudi Arabia, by the way. So all this nonsense they are talking about, I don't even believe it. And all still, you have people being emotionally carried away. They're like this and that. Oh, the guy is talking about is creating division. Oh, the guy. No, no, no. I'm telling you the truth. And this is the only thing that I believe is the gold. Nothing else. Um, Limited economic impact of the embargo as of March 2025. This is what I said earlier. They continue to talk about embargo. They continue to talk about, sanctions on Israel, and it doesn't stop. It doesn't end because it's all lies. The reason I believe they are not telling the truth is because you keep saying that you are imposing sanction. Tomorrow you come again and say you've imposed another sanction. So where does this end? Where does this end? I want to know. Because you say one thing and the next day you move on to another place. And 300 plus unalive journalists in Gaza since October 7, 2023. Exactly, that's the point I was making.